Most people do not realize how much of life is lived in reaction. A word is spoken, a message appears, a memory surfaces, and the body moves before the mind has chosen. Stoicism begins by slowing this hidden reflex. Epictetus warned that people are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them. This chapter opens with that truth, because awareness is the first rescue. When you see reaction clearly, it loses its power. The Stoics never promised comfort. They promised freedom, and freedom begins when you stop being dragged by every impulse. Living in reaction feels busy, dramatic, and urgent, yet it quietly steals years. You chase approval, defend your ego, and replay insults long after they fade. Calm disappears, not because life is cruel, but because attention is scattered. Stoicism teaches that the mind must be trained like a disciplined guard. Nothing enters without permission. When you pause between stimulus and response, you reclaim your time. That pause is silent and invisible to others, but it is where strength lives. This is not suppression. It is selection. You choose what deserves energy and what does not. The goal is not numbness. The goal is command. Reaction is addictive because it feels alive. Anger feels powerful. Anxiety feels productive. Drama feels meaningful. Yet Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the mind becomes shaped by what it repeatedly entertains. When reaction rules you, your inner world becomes chaotic. Stoicism teaches that discipline begins with observation. You watch thoughts rise without obeying them. You notice emotional heat without feeding it. This space is uncomfortable at first. The ego wants instant expression. It wants defense, explanation, and validation. Stoic training denies these urges their throne. Seneca wrote that the greatest remedy for anger is delay. Delay is not weakness, it is mastery. When you delay reaction, clarity enters. You begin to see how many conflicts never needed your participation. Silence becomes a shield. Stillness becomes strategy. The Stoic does not rush to prove anything. He lets reality speak first. By refusing to react automatically, you stop handing control to strangers' memories and moods. You return authority to yourself. This is the first Stoic rule, hidden in plain sight. Guard the mind before guarding the world. Everything else follows. Living in reaction drains years because it multiplies suffering. One insult becomes 10 thoughts. One mistake becomes a story of identity. Stoicism cuts this chain at the first link. Epictetus taught that external events are neutral until the mind assigns meaning. This is not denial. It is precision. You separate facts from judgments. Someone raises their voice. That is a sound. Someone disagrees. That is an opinion. Pain begins only when the mind adds interpretation. Reaction thrives on exaggeration. Stoic discipline restores proportion. You ask simple questions. Is this within my control? Is this worth my attention? Will reacting improve my character? Most impulses fail these tests instantly. When they do, you let them pass. Calm returns not because the world softened, but because the mind hardened wisely. The Stoic does not chase peace. He removes what disrupts it. Over time, this practice reshapes identity. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of events and start seeing yourself as a steward of response. This shift alone can save decades of emotional exhaustion and regret. The habit of reaction is learned early and reinforced daily. Social pressure rewards outrage. Technology feeds urgency. Stoicism moves in the opposite direction. It teaches intentional slowness. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you always have the option of having no opinion. This is radical freedom. Not every thought deserves belief. Not every feeling deserves action. The Stoic learns to sit with discomfort without needing to discharge it onto others. This builds internal authority. When you stop reacting, people notice. Not because you announce it, but because your presence changes. You become harder to provoke, harder to manipulate, and harder to distract. Reaction gives others leverage. Discipline removes it. This is why Stoics valued self-command above status or praise. External winds mean little if the inner world is chaotic. The disciplined mind moves through noise untouched. This is not indifference, it is depth. You respond when reason calls, not when emotion screams. Over time, reaction loses its grip. What once controlled you becomes background noise. Training out of reaction requires repetition, not motivation. Stoicism is practical, not poetic. You practice pause daily. You practice restraint in small moments. You let messages wait. You let comments pass. You let emotions cool. Seneca warned that a man who cannot govern himself will always be ruled by others. Self-government begins here. Each time you choose not to react, you strengthen the muscle of choice. Each time you respond with intention, you recover lost time. This is how Stoicism saves years. Not by adding more effort, but by removing waste. Reaction wastes energy, focus, and dignity. Discipline conserves them. The Stoic understands that calm is not found, it is maintained. You build it through boundaries within the mind. Over time, this practice compounds. What once required effort becomes natural. Silence replaces explanation. Clarity replaces chaos. You begin living forward instead of sideways. This chapter lays the foundation for everything that follows. Ending reaction is not the final goal, it is the doorway. Once reaction no longer controls you, discipline can take root. Focus becomes sharper. Decisions become cleaner. Confidence grows quietly. Marcus Aurelius believed that the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. Stoicism extends that idea. The best victory is not to be ruled by impulse. When you stop reacting, you stop bleeding time. You reclaim years once lost to anger, fear, and distraction. This is not theory, it is training. And it begins now. Once reaction is recognized, the next task is harder. You must weaken it. Reaction does not disappear because you understand it. It fades only when it is repeatedly denied fuel. Stoicism teaches that habits of the mind are broken the same way they were built, through repetition. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself each morning that he would meet interference, arrogance, and ignorance. This was not pessimism, it was preparation. When you expect disturbance, it loses its surprise. Reaction feeds on shock. When events feel unexpected, emotions rush in to take command. The Stoic removes this advantage by expecting difficulty as part of life's design. When something goes wrong, you no longer ask why me. You say this too belongs here. This shift alone reduces emotional violence. Calm grows not from optimism, but from realism. You stop demanding that life be easy, and therefore stop reacting when it is not. Reaction is strongest when identity is involved. An insult feels painful because it threatens the image you protect. Stoicism dissolves this weakness by separating the self from opinion. Epictetus taught that if you wish to be invincible, make no treaty with things that are not in your control. Reputation, approval, and praise belong to others. When you attach identity to them, you hand over power. The Stoic learns to anchor worth internally. You judge yourself by effort, not applause. By intention, not outcome. When criticism arrives, it no longer shakes the core. You examine it calmly. Is it useful? Is it true? If yes, you learn. If not, you discard it. Reaction thrives where ego rules. Discipline replaces ego with principle. This is how emotional stability is built. Not by hardening the heart, but by clarifying what truly matters. Another source of reaction is mental noise. The modern mind is overstimulated and under-directed. Stoicism responds with focus. Seneca warned that being everywhere is the same as being nowhere. Reaction scatters attention across countless concerns. The Stoic gathers it back. You limit what enters the mind. You reduce unnecessary input. You learn to sit with silence without needing distraction. This quiet is not empty, it is restorative. In stillness, thoughts slow down, impulses weaken. You regain the ability to choose rather than chase. Reaction feels urgent because the mind is crowded. When you simplify mental space, urgency fades. You begin to move deliberately. Decisions feel lighter. This discipline protects time, energy, and emotional health. A focused mind reacts less because it is not constantly provoked. Stoicism also trains emotional endurance. Many reactions exist simply to escape discomfort. You react to end awkwardness, to relieve tension, to discharge anxiety. The Stoic does the opposite. He stays. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the mind adapts and converts every obstacle into fuel. This requires remaining present with discomfort long enough to understand it. When you do not rush to escape feelings, they lose authority. Emotions rise, peak, and pass. Reaction interrupts this natural cycle and traps emotion in the body. Discipline allows release through awareness. You feel without acting. This is strength. Over time, tolerance increases. Situations that once triggered strong reactions barely register. Emotional resilience is not loud. It is quiet confidence built through patience. Another key Stoic rule emerges here. Do not borrow trouble from the future. Reaction often lives in anticipation. You imagine outcomes, replay scenarios, and suffer in advance. Seneca called this the anxiety of rehearsal. Stoicism pulls the mind back to the present. You focus on what is required now, not what might happen later. The present is manageable. The imagined future is infinite and overwhelming. When attention stays rooted in now, reaction loses momentum. You stop exhausting yourself with hypothetical pain. This does not mean ignoring preparation. It means preparing without panic. Calm planning replaces anxious projection. This saves enormous emotional energy and restores clarity. This chapter strengthens the discipline begun in the first. Reaction weakens when expectation, identity, focus, endurance, and presence are trained. Stoicism does not eliminate emotion. It places emotion under reason. When you stop reacting, life does not become dull. It becomes precise. You act when action matters. You speak when words are useful. You conserve energy for what truly deserves it. This is how reaction slowly releases its grip. Not through force, but through consistent, rational choice. The mind becomes quieter. Days become lighter. Years return to you. Reaction survives because it feels protective. It convinces you that fast emotion is necessary for safety. Stoicism exposes this illusion. Most reactions do not protect you. They exhaust you. They drain clarity and replace it with impulse. Marcus Aurelius warned that the soul becomes colored by what it repeatedly entertains. A reactive mind becomes restless, defensive, and tense. A disciplined mind becomes steady. The Stoic understands that true safety comes from judgment, not speed. When something happens, the pause becomes sacred. In that pause, you reclaim authority. You decide how much meaning an event deserves. Often, the correct amount is very little. Not everything requires a response. Not every disturbance deserves your energy. Choosing non-reaction is not weakness. It is intelligent conservation. One of the deepest Stoic rules is this: you are disturbed not by events, but by your interpretation of them. This insight changes everything. When something goes wrong, the mind instantly assigns meaning: disrespect, failure, loss, threat. Stoicism teaches you to slow this process. Before accepting the story your mind creates, you question it. Is this truly harmful, or merely uncomfortable? Is this permanent or temporary? Is this within my control or not? These questions weaken emotional exaggeration. Reaction thrives on dramatization. Reason reduces scale. When the mind stops inflating events, the body relaxes. Calm is restored not by denial, but by accurate perception. Seeing things as they are, not worse than they are. Reaction is also fueled by the desire to control outcomes. You want certainty, recognition, success, and fairness. Stoicism releases this burden. Epictetus made it clear: some things depend on you. Some things do not. Peace begins when this line is respected. When you demand control over what is not yours, frustration is guaranteed. Reaction is the protest of unmet expectations. The Stoic adjusts expectations to reality. You focus on effort, not result, conduct, not consequence. When outcomes disappoint, you do not collapse. You review your actions and move forward. This discipline creates emotional independence. Your mood no longer rises and falls with circumstances. Stability replaces volatility. Another powerful Stoic practice is voluntary discomfort. Reaction weakens when comfort addiction is broken. Seneca advised practicing hardship while fortune is kind. This trains the mind to remain calm when ease disappears. Small acts of discipline build resilience. Waking early, limiting indulgence, sitting with silence. These are not punishments. They are preparation. When difficulty arrives, it feels familiar instead of shocking. Reaction loses its edge because the mind has rehearsed restraint. Comfort breeds fragility. Discipline builds strength. A disciplined mind does not panic when conditions change. It adapts. It remains centered. Silence is another weapon against reaction. Many emotional mistakes are spoken into existence. Stoicism values restraint in speech. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to speak only what improves the moment. Reaction speaks quickly and regrets later. Discipline listens longer. When you delay speech, emotion settles. What seemed urgent often proves unnecessary. Silence protects dignity. It prevents escalation. It allows understanding. This does not mean suppressing truth. It means delivering it deliberately. Words spoken from calm carry weight. Words spoken from reaction create damage. The Stoic chooses precision over volume. This chapter teaches a quiet truth. Reaction is not removed by fighting emotion, but by strengthening reason. When perception sharpens, expectations align, control is released, discomfort is trained, and silence is respected. Reaction fades naturally. You do not become indifferent. You become selective. Your energy is no longer wasted on noise. Life becomes clearer. Decisions become cleaner. You stop living in defense mode and start living in command. This is how years of reaction begin to dissolve, not suddenly, but permanently. Reaction often hides inside habits. It becomes automatic, almost invisible. You respond before you realize you had a choice. Stoicism interrupts this pattern by restoring awareness. Awareness is the gateway to freedom. When you notice your inner movements, you stop being owned by them. Marcus Aurelius practiced constant self-observation. He watched his thoughts the way a guard watches a gate. Not every thought was allowed entry. This vigilance is not exhausting. It is liberating. When you become aware of the moment emotion rises, you gain the power to shape it. Reaction loses its grip the instant it is seen clearly. Another Stoic rule teaches that emotions are signals, not commands. Anger signals a perceived injustice. Fear signals uncertainty. Desire signals attachment. But a signal does not require obedience. Most suffering comes from confusing emotion with instruction. Stoicism trains you to receive emotion without surrendering to it. You acknowledge what you feel, then decide how to act. This separation is crucial. It restores dignity. You are no longer dragged by inner storms. You stand above them, observing, choosing, and responding with intent. Calm grows when emotion is respected, but not worshipped. The Stoics also warned against mental time travel. Reaction thrives in the past and future. Regret pulls you backward. Anxiety pulls you forward. Both steal presence. Seneca wrote that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. The present moment is almost always manageable. When you anchor attention to what is happening now, reaction weakens. You stop rehearsing insults that already happened or disasters that may never arrive. The mind settles. Energy returns. Focus sharpens. Life feels lighter not because it is easier, but because it is no longer multiplied by fear and memory. Another discipline that dissolves reaction is acceptance. Acceptance does not mean approval. It means recognizing reality without resistance. Resistance creates friction. Friction creates emotional heat. Stoicism teaches you to accept what is, so you can act wisely within it. When something unpleasant happens, the Stoic does not waste energy wishing it were different. That moment is already gone. Instead, attention shifts to the next right action. Acceptance clears mental space. It transforms obstacles into terrain. You stop arguing with reality and start navigating it. Reaction also feeds on comparison. You measure yourself against others and feel inferior, superior, resentful, or insecure. Stoicism cuts this habit at the root. Your path is your own. Your progress is internal. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that people act according to their understanding, not yours. Comparing yourself to them is pointless. When you release comparison, you release emotional volatility. You no longer rise and fall with others' opinions or achievements. Confidence becomes quiet. Focus returns to self-mastery, which is the only competition that matters. This chapter reveals a deeper layer of freedom. Reaction fades as awareness sharpens. Emotion is observed. Time collapses into the present. Acceptance replaces resistance, and comparison loses meaning. You are no longer at war with your inner life. You become its commander. Calm stops being a temporary state and becomes a default condition. This is how reaction stops ruling you, not through force, but through understanding. Reaction finally loses its power when you stop taking everything personally. This is one of the most difficult Stoic lessons, and one of the most freeing. Most reactions are born from the belief that events are about you. A harsh word feels like an attack. A dismissal feels like rejection. A delay feels like disrespect. Stoicism gently removes this illusion. People act from their own fears, habits, and limitations. Their behavior is rarely a true measure of your worth. When you stop centering yourself in every event, emotional wounds heal faster, and many never form at all. Epictetus taught that if someone insults you, it is not the insult that harms you, but your judgment about it. This single insight dismantles reactivity. Words are sounds, actions are movements. Meaning is something you assign. Once you understand this, you regain authorship over your inner life. You can choose not to assign pain. You can choose silence over defense, dignity over explanation, calm over escalation. This does not make you weak. It makes you unreachable by chaos. Another Stoic rule revere is restraint of speech. Reaction loves words. It rushes to explain, justify, argue, or prove. The Stoics valued measured silence. Not every thought deserves expression. Not every conflict deserves engagement. Silence is not avoidance. It is strategy. When you pause before speaking, you reclaim authority over the moment. Many battles are won by refusing to fight them. Calm people conserve energy. Reactive people waste it. The Stoics also practiced voluntary discomfort to reduce emotional dependency. They trained themselves to be okay with less. Less praise, less comfort, less certainty. When you need less, you react less. You stop clinging to outcomes. You stop panicking at loss. You stop chasing approval. This inner minimalism creates psychological strength. When life shakes you, there is less inside to spill. Stability becomes natural because you are no longer over-attached to fragile things. Reaction fades further when you align daily actions with long-term values. A reactive life is short-sighted. It seeks immediate relief. Stoicism stretches your vision forward. You begin asking, will this response make me stronger tomorrow? This question changes everything. It slows impulsive behavior. It favors patience over release, discipline over drama. You stop reacting for the moment and start acting for the future version of yourself you respect. By this stage, something profound happens. You realize that most of your past suffering was optional. Not because events were easy, but because reaction added weight. Now that weight is gone. You move through difficulty with clarity. You respond instead of explode. You choose instead of react. Nothing outside has changed, yet everything inside has. This is Stoic power. Quiet, controlled, unshakable. This chapter marks a turning point. You are no longer learning how to stop reacting. You are becoming someone who naturally does not. Inner control is no longer forced. It is embodied. And when reaction disappears, freedom takes its place. At the end of this path, you understand something most people never do. Freedom is not found by controlling life. It is found by mastering your response to it. This is the final Stoic realization. When nothing and nobody can pull you into reaction, you become internally sovereign. Events may still happen. People may still test you. Loss may still arrive. But none of it owns you anymore. You stand calm in the middle of movement, like a mountain surrounded by weather. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you always have the power to wipe away impressions and return to tranquility. This is not poetic exaggeration. It is a daily practice. By now, you have learned to pause, to question your judgments, to choose reason over impulse. You no longer confuse emotion with truth. You let feelings pass without obeying them. This alone separates the disciplined mind from the reactive crowd. The final Stoic rule is acceptance without surrender. Acceptance does not mean liking what happens. It means seeing reality clearly and working with it instead of fighting it. Resistance creates friction. Friction creates suffering. When you accept what is, your energy becomes available for what matters. You stop exhausting yourself by arguing with reality. Calm returns because there is nothing left to struggle against. At this stage, confidence becomes quiet. You no longer need to announce strength or defend identity. You trust yourself because you have proven something important. You can endure discomfort without collapsing. You can face criticism without shrinking. You can experience uncertainty without panic. This kind of confidence does not depend on praise or success. It comes from self-command. And self-command cannot be taken away. You also begin to notice how rare this state is. Most people live externally. Their mood depends on messages, reactions, results, and recognition. Yours no longer does. You wake grounded. You move deliberately. You sleep without replaying every moment. Life still challenges you, but it does not destabilize you. This is what it means to live above reaction. Stoicism does not promise a life without pain. It promises a life without unnecessary suffering. Pain may visit, but it will not stay longer than needed. You have learned to extract meaning instead of bitterness, growth instead of resentment, strength instead of stories. This is emotional maturity in its highest form. Now you see clearly why nothing and nobody will ever affect you again in the same way. Not because you are numb. Not because you are detached from life, but because you are deeply attached to your principles. You have built an inner structure that does not depend on circumstance. When chaos comes, it meets order. When pressure rises, it meets discipline. When provocation appears, it meets silence. This is not the end of practice. It is the beginning of embodiment. Stoicism is no longer something you read or listen to. It is how you move through the world. Others will feel it without you saying a word. Calm is contagious. Presence is commanding. Self-control speaks louder than reaction ever could. And so the journey closes where it truly begins. Inside you, unshaken, unbothered, free. This concludes the final chapter. You've completed the journey with the Stoic Tide. If this series changed how you see your mind and your reactions, like to support disciplined thinking, share with someone trapped in emotional reaction. Subscribe for timeless Stoic wisdom, calm power, and inner freedom.